Hey, Jedis. So I was reviewing the foundation training, and I thought as a foundation, it would be incomplete if I didn't touch on an element of what I believe to be profoundly important in any foundation that you create that's going to result in your increased, enhanced, and sustained performance. And it's the conversation around why. Most people, especially in non-traditional business or sales-related or goal-related tasks, will tell you, you need to understand your why. And you need to understand your why. If your why is big enough, the how becomes less important, and all these things that we've heard. And I think that's dead on, but I think telling somebody to understand their why, to know what their why is, well, I think that's about 10% of the conversation. So here's the other Jedi 90% of that why conversation. And I'm going to call it, and remember, I title things to help you remember things and to help you make conceptual associations with things you already know in your mind, in your brain. And as a way that you can quickly pull this off the bookshelf if you understand the metaphor in the course of your life. So make it practical. So the rest of the why conversation is what I usually put under the category of matter and energy. This is going to be a conversation around human energy. And I believe this to be the fundamental engine that you will use to drive yourself forward. It's the engine that some people have on and some people never bother to cut this engine on. They drive through life with their engine off. So let's go through it. You should have, and you should write down for this exercise, at least one of your whys. Why you have made the decision to take on whatever this task, this goal, this quest, this mission is. Now, that's where most people leave it. So you write down what that is. My why is I want to do this thing, and my why, my reason for wanting to do this thing is X. Okay, well, here's the Jedi exploration of that. Once you put down what your why is, I'm going to invite you to ask, here's the question, here's the Jedi question. If you lived in a world where your why has come to pass, which means you've done the thing, you've accomplished the thing, what will accomplishing that mean to you? What will that mean to you? Write down these meanings. Write down these things. And if this is the first time you've ever explored this, it's going to be immensely helpful. You're going to be powerful in 10 minutes. What would accomplishing your why, what does that mean to you? What do you think it means to you? Okay. Once you write down what these things mean to you, I want you to express these things, these meanings, in terms of emotions. In other words, when you have manifested these meanings in your life, what emotions do you believe they will create in you, in your mind, in your body, in your biochemistry, in your spirit, right? So once your why has come to pass, once you have created that meaning that you've associated with that in your life, what emotions do they generate? Or do you believe that they will generate? Right? Write them down, whatever they might be. Okay. Here's some food for thought. Those list of emotions that you wrote down is the driver for you doing all the stuff. That's the payoff you want. You set this task, you have this dream, you have this vision and you want to go out and make that come to pass, because that coming to pass, by your own definition, will mean something in your world. And by manifesting that meaning in your world, it's going to generate these emotions that you will feel. Well, these emotions that you feel is the payoff that you're seeking. That's the payoff that you're seeking in the first place. So, here's the Jedi hack. Here's the Jedi hack. You want to find a way to get a little bit of those identified emotions. You want to find a way to, in your daily activity, experience a little bit of those emotions. Because what's going to happen, you're building the habit of getting the payoff that you seek. And if you can get the payoff that you seek on a daily basis, you're going to continue to do that. That's what's driving you anyway. So let's give some examples. What's the why? People are going to say all kind of things. People are going to answer these things if they're truthful. The answers are going to be all over the board. They're going to say, my why is because I want a better life for my kids. Okay, that sounds great. That's awesome. So by getting a better life for your kids, what does that mean in your world? Well, by creating a better life for my kids, that will mean that I am a better, more worthy parent. Okay, so if you're a better, more worthy parent, if you live the life as a better, more worthy parent, what emotions do you anticipate you will feel as that better, more worthy parent? Oh, I'm going to feel happy. I'm going to feel content. I'm just making these up, right? Okay, so happy, content. I'm going to feel worthy. I'm going to feel, and they make this list. Okay, so what I'm prescribing that you do now, you take those lists, happy, content, worthy, and now you find out, okay, how can I construct the activity of my day related to doing the thing, building the business, working the project, accomplishing the task? What might I be able to do today to feel a little bit of happiness, a little bit of worthiness, a little bit of contentness? That's the formula. That's the Jedi secret formula. Let's do a different example. What's the payoff? What's the goal? The goal is to lose 25 pounds. What's the why? The why is because I want to look better and feel better and be healthier. Okay, if you create a reality where you look better, feel better, and are healthier, what will that mean in your life? Well, that will mean that I have the ability to control my life's destiny as related to health. I am in control of that. It's not outside of my control. Okay, great. So if that meaning comes to pass, what emotions will they generate in your life? Well, I think they're going to make me motivated. I think I would be inspired. I think I would be less fearful. I think, so you make these handful of lists of these emotions. Now you go back, right, and you apply them in today's activity. How can I construct my activity so that today's payoff will be these very same emotions? I'm hoping this is making sense to you. If you're writing these things down, it doesn't even have to make sense to work for you. If you start with what your task is, right? And then you start with what your why is for doing the task. And then you break the why down into, once you accomplish that why, what will that mean to you? And then you ask yourself the question, if I create a life with this meaning being a reality in my life, what emotions will I experience? That's the payoff you're seeking. That's what you're hunting. You're not hunting the path to get there. You're not, let's go back. So I want to be my own boss. Why? Well, because I want the economics of creating my own business. I want the economics of having my own business are economics that I can never get as having a job. Okay, Well, what will that mean to you? Well, what will that mean to me is I will have more freedom to do things that I want. Really? Okay, so if you have more freedoms to do things that you want, what emotions will you feel having that be a reality? Oh, I will feel powerful. I will feel more brave. I will feel less dependent. Okay, so now you take those and pull them back up into the task of your day, right? How can I construct my day today to feel more powerful? Okay, well, one expression of power is to be able to create what I say that I'm going to create. Doing what I say is a demonstration of power. See how simple that is? So now that you realize that one of the reasons you're going to set today's goals and accomplish today's goals is to demonstrate, to be a demonstration of your will, your power exercised in your life. That's how you move the payoff emotion, powerful, into the task of your day. So now you're accomplishing the task of losing 5 pounds. And I'm going to keep jumping through metaphors because it's universal. This applies to any metaphor. So if your goal is to lose 5 pounds and you go through the whole worksheet and you realize that the payoff of that is to feel more powerful, so now you realize now that the reason you set today's activity of walking for an hour is to lose 5 pounds, but more importantly, is to demonstrate that you have the power. That emotional payoff is what you're seeking more than you're even seeking the 5. Remember, the emotional payoff was determined after you went through this scenario of realizing that being manifested in your life, right? So the 5 pounds itself is not the payoff. It's what that means in your life and how you feel about that meaning being real in your life. That's the payoff. So if you can if you can associate these payoffs with the task, what we're creating is an environment where you're more likely to consistently do these tasks over and 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 over again. As a subtle side note, there's a lot of interesting research, and I've done a podcast on this, but there's an interesting research about about the relationship between beliefs and by your actual biochemistry. So let me give you a really quick, looking at the time, I can do this in 3 minutes, right? Give me 3 more minutes. So most people are familiar with the term runner's high. If you're not, what that means is there's a lot of athletes experience this thing of hitting the wall, doing this, exerting themselves in a very physical way, like running out of energy. And then all of a sudden, they get this sudden burst of euphoria, this sudden burst of energy. Well, chemically, what's happening is their endorphins are being introduced into your bloodstream. Endorphins have a very similar compound to drugs that we take to feel better, like cocaine and morphine and these type of things are endorphins. But we make those things on our own. We have they're hormones. Endorphins are feel-good hormones. Here's the things. Endorphins are 2 things. They make you feel euphoric. They make you feel very, very good. But they're also addictive. That's why people get addictive to pain medicine. That's why people get addictive to like morphine. That's why people get addictive to these drugs that put them in this euphoric state. They're addictive by nature. So think about this. Our body has the ability to create a chemical that we are addicted to, which means when we get this chemical, we're going to want to repeat the activity to get the more of it. It's no different than somebody getting addicted to morphine and then they're rearranging their whole life, good and bad, to go get more morphine, to go get more of the drug they're addicted to. Where there's this scenario is playing itself out in the background of our lives outside of our awareness. Here's how. One of the things, anytime you build your self-esteem, anything you do something that results in you building your self-esteem, your body's biochemical response is to release endorphins. Now here's the cycle come full circle. Anytime you say you're going to do something and you go out and you do it, you build your self-esteem just slightly because you've demonstrated your human power. But by demonstrating your human power and building your self-esteem, you get a little tiny endorphin hit. Well, the endorphin hit is going to make you feel good, right? You're going to feel good about what you just accomplished. But now you also understand that that good feeling is coming from chemistry, these addictive endorphins. So you're now, when you do this, you're more likely to repeat the activity that resulted in you accomplishing the task. Why? Because you are a drug addict. You want another hit of those endorphins. You ever wonder why hyper-performing people are just so hyper-performing? How they can do all these things over and over and over again? Where do they get that drive from? Interesting way that you might look at them different now if you realize that, wow, they're just demonstrating the same activity that drug addicts do, right? They're just doing it in a positive way. If you've ever looked into the eyes of a drug dealer in your life's experience or in a movie or on TV, you realize that one thing that drug addiction, people addicted to these drugs do is anything. They're willing to do anything to get that hit. They're willing to be embarrassed. They're willing to put themselves at risk. They're willing to do bad things even. They're willing to, they lose their sense of, I'm too embarrassed to do this thing to get the drug hit. What becomes most important is that hit. So now imagine that if you could take that whole chemical reality and flip it upside down to serve you. What if you could do something in such a way that you do something positive that serves you, that gets you further along your path, and the result of that is you feel great and you get addictive to the behavior that got you here, which makes it more likely for you to repeat that behavior. Now you see full circle. Jedis are smart. That's why we do these things, right? So now full circle in review. The why conversation is a conversation around energy. So we gotta unwrap it to understand what's creating the energy. What is your why? Okay. What does that why mean to you in your life? Okay. What would having that reality, that meaning in your life, what emotions do they create in your life? Okay. Now we're going to take those emotions and find a way to get those emotions expressed in our daily activity related to the activity that we know is required for us to be successful, right? But now we realize that the payoff is massive, right? When we do what we say, it builds our self-esteem, it makes us feel good, and it makes us slightly more addicted to doing that behavior again. This is the Jedi secret of being consistent. This is the Jedi secret of being consistent over a long period of time. This is the Jedi secret about feeling good more than you feel bad, regardless of the task required for you to do, right? Just like the runner's high scenario, you can be flat out exhausted and tired and hurting. But when those endorphins hit your bloodstream, one of the things you're also going to be is pretty happy about where you are. So I hope this was a deeper and more meaningful explanation of what many people out there in the world give lip service to, which is the requirement for you to know your why. I hope it was helpful.